Hey everybody, welcome back. I was thinking about a topic for today's video and it struck me to talk about the distance formula. This is a wonderful formula that allows you to find the distance between 2 points. Given 2 points A and B with coordinates x1, y1 and x2, y2, we can find the distance between these 2 points. Suppose I have a graph xy as follows and I draw a line like this. And I have a point A here and a point B here. And the point A has coordinates x1, y1, and B has x2, y2. And the question is, how do we find the distance between these 2 points? This distance right here, we can call D. If I draw a straight line in the x direction as such, and then I draw another straight line in the y direction, as such, and we note that this is a right angle, we can then say that the distance here in the x direction is just x2 minus x1. And the distance here in the y direction is y2 minus y1. And from the Pythagorean theorem, we can write that d squared is equal to one side squared, which is x2 minus x1 squared, plus the other side squared, which is y2 minus y1 squared. Therefore, we can write that d, the distance, is just the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Let us now look at some examples of how do we apply the distance formula to find the distance between 2 points. Suppose I was asked to find D for the points 1, 2, and minus 1, minus 2. If we call the first point A and the second point minus 1, minus 2 as B, and we say that 1, 2 is x1, y1, and the second point minus 1, minus 2 as x2, y2, and we apply the distance formula D as x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, we have D is equal to x2 is minus 1 minus x1 is 1 squared plus y2 is minus 2 minus y1, which is 2, and we square that. So we have D equals minus 1 minus 2 is minus 2 squared plus minus 2 is minus 4 squared. Continuing, we have D equals minus 2 squared is 4 plus 4 squared is 16. So we have D equals the square root of 20. Or we can rewrite this as 20 is really 5 times 4. And then we have square root of 4 times the square root of 5. The square root of 4 can be reduced as 2 squared minus 3 1/2 and 5 1/4. We begin by identifying this as x1, y1, and this set of points as x2, y2. And we can say that D is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Continuing, x2 is 5 minus x1 is minus 3 squared plus y2 is 1/4 minus y1, which is 1/2 squared. Continuing, we have d equals 5 minus 3 is 8 squared plus 1/4 minus 1/2 squared. Now we need to simplify this. So 8 squared is 64 plus, we get a common denominator 4. The first term is 1. The second term is 2 quarters all squared. Continuing, we have d equals 64 plus 1 minus 2 is minus 1 over 4 all squared. So we have 64 plus 1 over 16. We can get a common denominator of 16, and note that 64 times 16 is 1024 plus 1. So we have d equals 1025 all over 16. We can notice that 1025 is really 25 times 41. And 16. The way I did this was I said, okay, 1025 can be divided by what? The highest number that I came up with was a multiple of 25. So 25 divided into 1025 is 41, which is this number. Or this can be further reduced as the square root of 25 times the square root of 41 all over the square root of 16, which is 5 times the square root of 41. The square root of 16 is 4. Therefore, d is 5 quarters multiplied by the square root of 41. Another useful aspect of this formula is that we can find a missing coordinate. For example, if I had to find the missing coordinate, and I was given 5, a is the unknown, and the other coordinate is 6, 1, and we were told that the distance between these two coordinates is the square root of 10. Therefore, we can begin and we identify x1, y1, and x2, y2. And we say that d is the square root of 10, which is x2 minus x1. x2 minus x1 is 6 minus 5 squared plus y2, which is 1, minus y1, which is a, squared. Therefore, this becomes an algebra problem. And we have the square root of 6 minus 5 squared plus 1 minus a squared is equal to the square root of 10. We begin the first step by squaring both sides, and therefore we have 6 minus 5 squared plus 1 minus a squared equals 10. 6 minus 5 squared is just 1, plus 1 minus a squared is 10. So we begin by writing 1 minus a squared equals, if we take the 1 onto the other side, we get 10 minus 1, which is 9. So we have 1 minus a squared equals 9. We can square this term out, or we can just take the square root of both sides and have 1 minus a equals 3. We will just consider the positive square root. So now we take the a on this side to make it positive and the 3 on this side. Therefore, we have 1 minus 3 equals a. Therefore, minus 2 equals a, or a equals minus 2. Therefore, our points are 5, minus 2, and 6, 1. This will give us a distance d of square root of 10, and we can verify that and check. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. We talked about the distance formula. We looked at square roots. We simplified fractions and simplified square roots. We applied the distance formula successfully to find the distance between 2 points. Look forward to seeing you in my next lesson. Please be sure to click like and subscribe and comment below. Take care. Have a great day.